Hey YouTube land, I Counters here doing another action figure review. Again, I'm super excited about this one. At the time of this recording, this one just arrived today. So where I had Scareglow the previous day, and I'm not sure, I'm still on the fence whether Scareglow is a good guy or bad guy. This guy is most definitely a bad guy. He's one of Skeletor's main henchmen. Hopefully the first of many of Skeletor's henchmen that I will be picking up. And that is Trapjaw, one of my all-time favorite characters from Masters of the Universe. I had the original figure as a kid, which I don't have an original figure anymore, but I will get into what I remember about him in this review. But before I proceed, just need to say these reviews are intended for collectors age over the age of 13 years, just for the purposes of COPA rules and the FTCA, FDA, whatever, and we'll have a quick look at his box before we proceed. So it's the standard classic 80s style Masters of the Universe packaging. It does come with a comic. I left it in the back of this one mainly because it's exactly the same comic that you get with every figure in Wave 3, and I've already looked at it. It is I just bring in, it's this one. I already have 2 copies of it. One came with Scareglow, one came with Many Faces, one comes with this guy, and there's an exact same duplicate copy that comes with Orko. There's 4 figures in this wave. I have 3 of the 4 figures. I am still waiting for most of the wave 1 figures. I've got this guy from amazon.co.uk. He should be available there. If not, he should be available to order, and they should be able to actually let you know if they come back in stock, if they sold out. But flipping around the back of the box, you get some awesome artwork. In fact, I'll just move the camera up. You get awesome artwork of He-Man versus Trapjaw doing his zipline thing, which you can actually do with this figure, but you don't get any rope to do it with. And you also have images of the figure and what it does, and then you have Orko, Many Faces, all the figures in this wave, and 2 from the previous wave. What is interesting is, as I did say, that on the Scareglow packaging, they actually named the characters. I was wrong on that. They do name it on all the packaging for these. It's the box that came with the Sky Sled, with Prince Adam and Sky Sled. They didn't name any of the figures. They just put kind of barcode number type things underneath them. Don't know why that is. And another thing is, I was looking at my Skeletor box, which is the one that I got from the States, and underneath each one it gives a slight little one-line bio, and even for the picture it gives a bit of a description of the character. So probably say something like evil henchman of Skeletor or something along those lines. Same with these. I'm assuming Scareglow is evil because he's down on the bottom of the card with the other evil characters. But I always figured he was kind of a neutral sort of character. But that is it for the box. On to the figure. Now, I love this guy. He is one of my favorite characters of all time. I don't know what it is about him. I just think he looks so cool with the bionic arm, the working jaw, which what the original figure had. He does reuse a few parts. I should have picked this up on Many Faces, but I will go bring him in, just show you straight off the bat. So the legs on both Many Face and Trapjaw are the same. So the lower, from even the whole leg is the same crossover. I originally thought that the arms are the same as well, the lower arm. They look very, very similar. In fact, if I just pop them off, because they are intended to pop out. Bear with me a moment. I did knock my lamp right off the table as well, so bear with me while I just grab that and pop it back up. Sorry about that. So if I take the arms, you can see they're very similar, very, very similar in design. They have the weird ribbed kind of elbow pad. They even have the same outstretched hand, but you can see they're actually quite different. You have extra detailing on Trapjaw's one, but at a glance, you could almost mistake them for the same arm, but they are, or sorry, the same lower arm. Obviously, the upper arm is different. Many Faces is more mechanical, whereas Trapjaw's again is mechanical, but it is done in a different style. It looks like he still has muscle tone and stuff like that. So you can see there's very similar sculpting, but there's differences between them. So if I just pop that back into Many Faces, I'll leave him aside for the moment and pop him back together. So he comes with quite a few accessories. I just pop them off. So the way I remember my Trapjaw figure is like this. I never had any of his accessory bits. I got him, I'd say I must have been about 5 or 6 when I got him, and I got him off a friend of ours. I think he traded me stuff for him, so he was never complete to begin with. I don't even think he had the belt. I never even knew he had a belt until I saw the classics version. All I remember is Trapjaw having this armor shoulder pad piece and this cool bionic arm, and obviously just use this as a pew pew thing when you don't have any of the actual weapons for it. But it has added articulation that the original one did not have, so you have a good range of articulation. One thing of note, when I popped the arm off, is this shoulder pad piece. On the original, it was an actual separate piece, and it sat over a standard Master of the Universe buck. This is now sculpted as part of the figure, so it's non-removable. Just a heads up for people who are intending on getting this body for maybe a darker blue version of Skeletor, or just even customizing in general. And there is another thing to note about this. If I just pop his head off, his head is a good bit different to the standard Masters of the Universe Classics figures. Here is Skeletor without his head. Now, the head should still be swappable as far as I'm aware. I mean, they do use the same ball peg system. So if I just pop Skeletor's head, actually it's quite tight and I don't want to force it in case it snaps. Probably with a little bit of work, you could get this on it if you wanted to. More than likely not, but you can see this is a ball peg, whereas this is a completely different sort of joint. Come on, Skeletor, get your head back on. Is that on? No, that seems to be on. Didn't hear a pop. So I will move the evil Lord of Destruction over out of the way for the moment, because I will be bringing him back in again for size comparison, which he should be in size with. So you get a great range of movement out of this arm. It's really nicely jointed the way they did it, because you can get him to actually have some really good posing with it, which is something you couldn't really do with the original. He has the elbow joint as well, which the original one didn't have. Swappable hands. Now, there isn't any peg. I think the original one had a little peg piece on the end of the guns. This doesn't have it. It's just a flat peg, so you can pop whichever arm attachment you want on. And I'm assuming they will do the same thing with Roboto when he gets released. I think he was even hinted that he's coming. And if I remember correctly, Roboto has different arm attachments, so you could always mix match between Roboto and Trapjaw. I'll throw his head back on just for the sake of it. But you can see it's a fairly in-depth head, and his jaw does open up quite a bit. In fact, I remember the original one opening up that much. It's really only intended to open that far, but you can overstretch it, so it does have the articulating jaw point. If you have a string that's big enough, you can attach it to his headpiece and do the zip line thing. He does have a removable belt, which I don't want to take off, but it's this kind of, you know, underneath it's the standard Master of the Universe buck with the loincloth, the furry loincloth. And just like with his original counterpart, there's hooks on the side of his claws, or his hand attachments, so you can put them on his belt, which is again something I never knew you could do because I never had the belt with my original one. His left hand is pretty much the same as the right, same articulation, just obviously completely different sculpting. With the added addition of his wrist, he does have a wrist with a hinge. his face sculpt is just awesome. He only has swivel on the head. He can do a 360, but you don't get any up and down to speak of. So that is a shame. I would have loved if it had the same articulation as Skeletor. Legs can do the basic splits like any of the rest of the figures. He can put his feet forward. He can bend his knee, swivel in the knee. He has better articulation in the feet than many faces does, even though it's the same foot. Or is it just the left one is a bit loose? But he does stand quite nicely. So if I get him into a standing position, I'll bring in the good old tape measure. So you can see he stands just a little over the 5.5 because of that ring on his helmet. But he is literally supposed to be the same scale as the rest of them. So if I push him back a bit, bring in Skeletor for size comparison, so you can bully around his minions. Many faces can come back in. And I have Adam as well. In fact, I'll just move Adam's sword. Or, well, he's currently wielding John Cena's axe and shield. But you can have him like that. What's also cool is, I believe, you can give weapons to the hook hand. They don't hold too great, but you can sort of give them a weapon in the hook hand. Not so much with the clamp hand. I'm not too sure, but I kind of remember the original clamp moving on the clamp hand. I could be wrong, because I know it does it for, I'm pretty sure it does it on the classics version of him, but I could be wrong on that. But overall, he's really, really cool. And for vehicles, he will sit quite happily in some vehicles. If I can move things out of the way again. So bear with me a moment. In fact, because it's right next to me, and I have it still here, he should be able to fit the sky sled. You can actually hook his hook hand onto the control panel of the sky sled and plug his foot into the foot peg. Because his other hand is open, he won't get a good grip on that. But there he is controlling the sky sled. I know it's the good guy setup on it at the moment. I would like to get multiple versions so you can have them all riding them, but that would be quite expensive. Maybe if they go down in price, or they do sort of a evil version of the sky sled with like another one of the other evil characters, I might pick that up. Because I have this thing handy and I'm intending to review it. This is the weird Joker creature from that Savage, is it Savage line or whatever they're called? They're like Masters of the Universe style DC characters. So you can have him sit on that quite nicely and quite happily. Although this is something I would probably see Beastmen riding more than anything else. I don't have Beastmen. I will probably pick them up at some point. I did have a pre-order in one of our local shops, and I'm still waiting for that to be fulfilled. So I wanted to buy local instead of buying everything online. Night Strider or Night Stalker. You probably, yeah, you'll need to take his weapons off his belt for this one, because it's a bit bulky, but he should, in theory, don't look so surprised, he fits Night Stalker quite nicely just as well. So overall, he will fit pretty much any of the standard vintage classic Masters of the Universe vehicles. And I'm just realizing I should have brought over my Roton, because that would have been a classic bad guy vehicle for him to be sitting in. Most of these are heroic ones, like the laser bolt here, but you can have him sitting on that as well. So it looks pretty cool. But overall, it looks really good, and he does stand up quite nicely. Or he doesn't actually stand up to him, but he does stand nicely with Skeletor. So Skeletor can punch around his minions in order for him to take on He-Man. Unfortunately, I don't have He-Man or Battlecat yet. I will eventually get them. But you can see he stands quite nicely with Skeletor. So there you go, guys. Oh, and just for one other comparison, I have this one. I have this is the Super 7 reaction version of Trapjaw that came in the kind of blind boxes. You can see he has a purple arm instead of the black arm. I think that was supposed to be a kind of a nod to the animated version, because in that he had a pink fuchsia style arm. Same with the boots. He has more colouring on the boots. But you can see with a 3¼ inch scale version of him. And he does have white eyes instead of the kind of weird black with yellow dot eyes, which can't remember if the original one had that. I do remember this green on the original one being a little darker and the red on him being more this maroon fuchsia colour. Then this colour is more of this kind of... I also think the blue was a little darker, more akin to this. But overall, he looks really, really good. And as far as I know, I'm not sure when it's being released, there is a 2-pack with this guy and this guy coming out, but their previous versions, as in Skeletor before he became Skeletor and Trapjaw before he became Trapjaw, who was called Cronus in the Classics line, I think he was. I'm not sure if that was something from the comics, because again, I never really have read the comics that well. And Keldor, which is Skeletor before he became Skeletor, that was, I think the first time they used that storyline was in the 2000X Mike Young production He-Man story. I could be wrong, but there was a classics figure for that as well, where he kind of looks like a pirate, space pirate type thing with long hair. And he becomes Skeletor through a story involving Hordak and the Horde. Basically, he's a minion for the Horde, trying to take over Eternia, and stuff goes wrong and he looks for assistance from Hordak, and it basically, I could be butchering the idea behind it, but he basically becomes Skeletor. But there you go. Overall, really good figure. Do recommend picking him up. He should be available at the time of this recording on Amazon.co.uk. For other places, as in like for the States, he should be at Walmart. I think they're Walmart special or exclusives at the moment for a while, and then they become mass released to all other places. So just keep your eyes peeled for him if you want to pick him up. Really good figure, great character. Always been always a bumbling idiot from the cartoon, but that's the way I remember him. But there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video review. Cheers, guys.